Chemical weathering is when the part of the rocks that are being weakened by chemical weathering are being prized apart, or their particles are being scattered or shattered by some factors in the rock's environment. One of such factors is repeated temperature changes. Repeated temperature changes affect rocks in humid regions and desert, but mostly pronounced more in the desert. In the desert, when temperature changes in the morning to afternoon when they are very high and low at night, these alternate changes tend to make rocks to be constricted and expanded. So this compression and expansion in size tend to affect the rock layer by stresses that set up in its internal structure. So the internal structure tend to be cracked, or joints tend to affect or being produced in the internal structure of the rocks, making the rocks to now be plated. Examples are granites that have quarters, feldspar, and mica. So these stresses make this rock to be shattered to form screeds at the end of the day through exfoliation that take place, which makes the rock to now be peeling in their layers like onion. We also have repeated wetting and drying. Repeated wetting and drying, or alternate wetting and drying, tend to cause exfoliation in the humid region. Torrential downpours make these rocks to constrict in size due to moisture that is in their path. This moisture tends to cause expansion in the layers where stresses are now being set up by the humid nature of the environment. So when this tend to dry up, it tends to make these rocks to crack and tend to expand in their size or original volume, thereby giving way to exfoliation. The third form is frost action. Frost action is confined to glacial environment where rocks are being shattered or being prized apart in their particles when ice tend to gather in the rocks. But during thaw, they now make the rocks to constrict and expand in their size. In winter, snow tends to gather on top of the rocks and make the rocks to now expand 1/10 of their original volume. This rock tend to exert a kind of pressure, or the ice tend to exert pressure in the rocks that make them to burst, and they now crack to about 140 kg by that 1/10 volume that has been expanded within the rocks. So repeated actions of frozen and thawing after a long time make the rocks to now shatter and form screeds of different angular shapes. This rock shattering process is referred to as frost shattering or frost action. Biological weathering is the weathering that is being promoted by man, animals, and other vegetative or organic matters when they tend to prize apart rock particles by boring holes or lodging within the rocks. For example, man tend to affect the rate of weathering by affecting the level of precipitation and desertification through his activities like farming and other processes. But plants tend to make their roots to expand within the rocks as they are being enlarged or as they continue to grow, then boring holes and making the penetration to crack rocks in their original volume, thereby leading to shattering or promoting prizing apart of particles of the rocks. Others are also animals that bore holes. Examples are arboreal animals like rodents and others that bore holes in the soil and tends to make the rock in their bedding planes to now have joints and cracks. So these cracks and joints over time tend to promote chemical weathering that now makes the rock to now be prized apart in their internal structure and chemical composition.